Hi, I'm Denise Couling of Banfield Couling Law and Mediation in Brighton, Michigan. And this video is to answer the question, what are the common types of mistakes and errors that you see with do-it-yourself or DIY online divorce forms? Now, I fully understand that there's a common perception that hiring a lawyer is going to be very expensive and that sometimes there is no other option but to use online resources to either get started or to get a basic education in what might be expected in the divorce process, or some cases folks make the decision to use completely the online forms to process their divorce case and go through the court system. We commonly see clients who take this approach and run into pitfalls and errors and speed bumps that they hadn't expected. I fully understand the learning curve is steep. We spend a lot of time going to law school and then come out in the real world and learn by doing how to navigate not only the law and the court rules, but the individual rules that are in place in each county jurisdiction with the local judges individually in their own courtrooms and how they run their courts. And so there is a steep learning curve, and we as attorneys experienced it too, but of course with years of experience we start to see common patterns. And this video is not to do anything other than fully understand why these common errors take place, but to the extent that we help you become more aware of common errors, it may help you avoid them and also may help you be alerted to when seeing an attorney may be very important to avoiding an even bigger mistake or a permanent error down the road. So I'm just going to go through a few of the common issues and errors that we see when individuals use online forms and then attempt to process their divorce by themselves. One of the issues that is really just an overview issue is I find clients are often surprised that they started a lawsuit. I get the impression some individuals think they're using the new Michigan fast track procedure where the parties have a mutually agreeable divorce settlement in advance. They use a new special mutual petition, which is not a complaint for divorce. And using this fast track process, they enter a divorce quickly and efficiently. We have a special process to facilitate that called a streamlined divorce. And I get the impression a number of clients find our office because they attempted to do something like this fast track streamlined process on their own and instead wound up filing a lawsuit but without the benefit of an attorney. So first of all, most online forms, at least all of the ones which I have reviewed in the clients who have come to me, put the clients on the path toward a formal old-fashioned lawsuit, and they were heading toward trial. So be aware that without a settlement in advance, you could be facing a custody dispute, a property dispute, disputed issues regarding retirement accounts, parenting time, whatever it might be. You're starting a fight, not necessarily with a solution entered into in advance. That would be the fast track or streamlined process. So be aware if you're using online forms to file for divorce, as far as I know, you're filing an old-fashioned lawsuit. That's what I've seen. Then we see individuals not being aware of the service requirements. Basic due process requires that the defendant know that they're being sued for divorce or sued for anything else. So it's important to serve the defendant properly under the court rules. If you're having a hard time finding the defendant, there are specific court rules for how to default them. Well, not default them, how to have them served by alternative means or by publication. These are important rules, and if you're going to default the defendant because you cannot locate them, it's important to make sure that the due process service requirements are met first. So failure to serve the defendant is a problem which may result in your case being dismissed or certainly not going forward for a long time. Then in addition, we have folks who fill out the wrong paperwork for their case and sometimes submit that to the court clerk. And in my experience, undoing Inappropriate filings can be more work than doing it right to begin with. And in my experience, sometimes people filling out the online paperwork just do a mass of paperwork and don't know which paperwork needs to be filed at what step in the process, and may not have the experience in understanding which of the many forms that they printed out apply to them and which don't apply to the type of case that they intend to have. Another common mistake is that, or at least misconception, is that the clerks at the court will help you when you're confused or stuck in locating the right paperwork and or giving advice and filling it out, or assisting with legal questions. Now, I think the clerks tend to be very helpful. I have certainly witnessed clerks providing form packets or directing people to form packets at the various courts, but virtually every court has a sign posted that the clerks are not lawyers. They are not allowed to give any kind of legal advice. So the clerks cannot, by virtue of their job, assist with legal advice when non-lawyers come to the windows and try to file paperwork and also try to ask questions about their paperwork at that time. So I understand the clerk's position, and I understand why it would be useful if they could, but they aren't lawyers and they cannot do that. With the forms, I often see some of the biggest assets that folks have in their marital estate being dealt with in a very concerning form. A marital home being divided and no deadline for when the division is going to take place. No deadline for refinances. No deadline for the date the equity needs to be paid to the other party. No deadline for listing the house for sale. Even with deadlines, language that doesn't address what may be in the parties' minds about this, about what's going to take place next, but isn't stated in their paperwork. And then when it comes to retirement accounts, I don't believe the forms address those. I've looked at michiganlegalhelp.org, and I've noticed there are remarks directing the parties filling out the forms to seek the advice of an attorney. And I can't stress forcefully enough how much I agree with that. When dealing with the division of a retirement plan, it often takes approval by the employer's pension administrator or plan administrator for a 401k or 403b. This is beyond the scope of even what most attorneys will do. We typically hire professional quadro preparers to assist us in developing orders that will not only go through the court but be accepted by each individual employer's plan. This is definitely an area where attorney assistance is, in my view, mandatory. And making sure that the judgment of divorce, or if it's an order of separate maintenance, a judgment of separate maintenance, dovetails with the actual quadro, which is the order usually that divides the pension or 401k that's going to go through the employer. So it may sound like a lot of jargon, but it's very important obviously, it's sometimes the party's largest asset and critical to their future and being able to support themselves in their retirement. So if there is ever an issue to consult with an attorney, the retirement division of retirement assets has to be up there with the very, very top. Another common issue we see is parties unable to fill out the paperwork or present the proper paperwork in a way that meets with their local friend of the court's approval. And by not getting friend of the court approval, the paperwork does not go before the judge and the divorce does not get entered. So making sure that your paperwork will meet friend of the court approval is also a very important issue, and one that we commonly see individuals who are trying to put a divorce with children through on their own, or where their spousal support being paid through income withholding. They can have real difficulties. So again, the forms can be a great educational tool, but there's a big learning curve between starting to have some awareness of the issue and effectively and carefully bringing about the intention of the parties with court orders that are going to do the job that they had in mind. And that's even with when the parties are in agreement. The risks, another common error or concern we see is that the case may be dismissed for no progress because the plaintiff is having a hard time meeting the court's requirements and taking court dates seriously. If your court issues a court date, it may be mandatory for both parties to attend, but it's frequently mandatory, certainly for the plaintiff to attend. And then at certain court dates, courts are expecting exhibit lists and witness lists and financial disclosures to be made. And plaintiff on their own should be meeting the same requirements as an attorney appearing for the same court date. So failure to prepare or certainly failure to attend a court date, those are serious issues. As an attorney, again, I have to always indicate, because it is so important to our clients' lives, that there is no substitute for direct, personalized legal advice in your case. If it is not possible under your financial circumstances to retain an attorney for your entire divorce, many attorneys offer limited scope services. Limited scope meaning that the attorney may consider working on your case for just a part of the case on a by the hour basis, or maybe on a by the task basis. And then if you financially qualify, legal services sometimes are available. So I certainly recommend, if you're running into any of these common pitfalls, that you seek the advice of an attorney who's experienced with the local courts in your area. And if you cannot have legal representation for the whole case, please consider whether you maybe benefit in a great way by limited scope legal representation. Some of the outline topics from this video are going to be listed below in the notes. If you're interested in our booklet, Navigating Divorce in Michigan, Options to Know Before You File, please look below and there'll be a link to streamlinedivorce.com. And if you're interested in general information about the Banfield Couling law firm, a link to our law firm is also below. Thank you for your attention to this matter. We hope that this has been helpful, and if our law firm can be of assistance to you, we would very much appreciate the opportunity to discuss your matter personally. Thank you very much.